Hello, 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 everyone. This is your girl Karaleise, and today I'm going to be coming to you with a video about missing requirements. Okay, we're talking about missing requirements, what you may have forgotten to include. Now, this is the pain of every business analyst or product owner out there where you have done all this thinking, all this conversation, all these things. And then when you get into development and then you test and you put it out there, you realize, we missed something. We missed some requirements. And good thing is, if you catch it early, you can fix it. If you don't catch it early, you could really be in a world of pain when you get to your customers who see it before you see it, and then it looks bad on your team. So I'm going to give you today a list of some things that you can look out for so that you avoid this pain. Okay, I do not want you to go through the embarrassing pain of missing, especially the obvious requirements, right? You'd be surprised how many people have this problem where they assumed something was going to be there and everybody assumed it. And at the end of the day, nobody did it, right? So it turns out very bad. So here's a list of things that you should look out for when you're writing your requirements. This list will be available on my website, karaleise.com. So go to karaleise.com. You can download this for free. I don't charge you guys for nothing. You can go to my website and get this free stuff. I want you to become the best business analyst out there. The more good business analysts we have in the world, the better the world will be. Okay. There will be times when I will charge you for things, like if you want to do a consultation with me, you got to pay for that. And also, while you're on my website, please put your email into my email list, because I send information out to people in that list that I don't necessarily advertise on YouTube. So here we go. Let's start talking about missing requirements. So here's a list of things that you need to look out for when you write your requirements. So, does it handle empty state? So what happens if there is no data? Did you cover that, right? Make sure that you're covering how to handle it when there is no data at all. What about large data sets? So what happens if you have a lot of data, millions and millions of rows of data? How will your system respond? Now, sometimes the data set does never get that large, but sometimes it does. Do you need to have paging? Do you need to have lazy loading? Like, how do you handle, how will be the performance when there's millions of rows of data or thousands and thousands, right? How does it onboard? How do you get started? What is the first time user flow? Have you thought about that? How will someone start using this feature that you're developing? Do you help the user to get to the next action? Is there a way that you can help your user to move through the flow quickly? Can you anticipate what's next? What is the best representation of the data? So, are you showing it in the best way? Is this the best chart you could use for this type of data, right? Is it the clearest it can be for the user? Are you using the language that the user can understand? Like, for example, there was this project we were doing, and for some reason it got into the language of the UI, the word instance, an instance of the system. And we were like, but that's not a word that users know. It's a word we understand from, being in technology, but an instance doesn't mean anything. And so we had to, make changes to make it more user friendly. What about time dependencies? What happens if somebody's in a different time zone? What happens if you're trying to pull a report over here and they're in Japan? And do you show the date for the logged in user, or do you show the date for the person who is in that time zone pulling the report? Like things like that. How do you handle these time zone challenges? And there's time dependencies is a little bit different from time zone differences. The time zone difference is what I just explained. The time dependencies could be, I need to pull this at 4 p.m. every day. It needs to send this email at 2 a.m. Like, how do you, have you captured those nuances in your requirements, right? What about the errors? If this didn't go well, how will you handle that error? Should you show them a message? Should you, default to showing them this page? Should you show 404 page? Like what do you do? Have you thought through that, right? What is the order that makes the most sense? So should you show this information in this particular sequence? Is there a particular sequence that makes more sense for how you're showing the data? How do you do that? Does it have defaults? Are defaults good? I remember working on a project where we thought it was so cool to put some defaults into the system. We thought this is the best thing to do. It'll make it so easy for the user. They don't have to type in anything. And lo and behold, we talked to the user and found out that they do not want defaults, because when they get the default, they don't realize it's been pre-filled by the system and they end up making more mistakes. So is default helpful in your case, right? Make sure you're checking on that. Also, what about searching? Do you allow for easy searching? Are you doing type ahead? Can they easily find if they're in a screen with lots of data? How do you handle different field types? Are you handling them differently, or do they need to be handled differently, right? So, for example, it could be a combo box, it could be a drop down, like which one makes more sense there? You don't want to get too much into design because that's for the UX person, but sometimes you are the one designing it. So in that case, you got to make sure you're using the right field types for the type of data you're trying to show. Does it make sense to have um, a toggle button instead of having it, being check boxes? Does that make sense? So, support auxiliary functions, right? Does it handle event logging? How do you do audits on this thing? Are you able to zoom? What if it needs to, you need to get into viewing it bigger or better? Do you have zoom capability? What about undoing and redoing? What about exporting and importing? What about maybe emailing? So you need to make sure you cover those things if those are going to be needed. Um, is there any custom variables or any customization or configuration that needs to happen around these things, and how does the user get to them? Is it affected by a real-time update versus delay? So are you having a nightly job, a cron job running the night that compiles everything and sends out everything? Is that affecting it, or does it have to be real time, or like what are you compensating for those nuances? Do you handle when there are no special users? So maybe there's some things that, for example, if you're a beneficiary or if you have a beneficiary, then this happens. You send an email to the beneficiary as well. But if you don't, something else happens. So are you accounting for those special types of user types? Maybe the account owner, things like that. Is it affected by logged in users' permission and roles? So if you're logged in as this permission, then you see certain things. But if you're not logged in, you don't see certain things. So make sure that the feature is honoring the permission and the roles and the access roles that's there. Does it handle access rights and permissions on all users? Does it break something that's already been set up? Um, is it affected by the configuration settings? We talked about that a little bit, but affected by setting dependent features. So only if I have this turned on can I see this part, right? And make sure that when you're making requirements to update that part, that it honors the fact that you have to have it turned on as well. We talked about that a little bit when we mentioned custom variables. Soft delete versus hard delete. How do you help the user to recover when they make a mistake? Is it gone forever, or should you just do a soft delete that you can recover it? Does it handle integrations well? Is this affected by the type of integration, such as if it's a pull, then it does one thing. If it's a push, it does something else. And integration and being embedded, does it look well when it's embedded? Because sometimes you may have a full screen view, and that's great. But when you go embedded, it starts to go all crazy and haywire. Does your system handle both, right? Does it need a report? Is there a regular report that needs to come out? Do you need to start adding these to the reporting list, the list of reports that's like maybe default or customized? Paging shows the right amount of volume of data. So you may say on each page there's 25 rows. Is that enough? Are you forcing them to go through and do more clicks that they don't need? Affects tracking code. When I say tracking code, I really mean like whatever you're tracking in the back end. All right. So maybe there's something that's not being seen in the front that you need to track. Does it affect that? Should it be exported? We talk about that a little bit with the reporting and the auxiliary functions. does it affect existing segment rules? What that means is, let's say you have a rules engine. You have a rules engine that has segments. It has different things that, depending on that rule, are you honoring that rule? Is the calculations going to go wild because of what you're coming up with? Stuff like that. Rules engine, calculation backend, maybe some middleware, all that stuff. Existing clients or new clients only. Does your thing work well with only new clients? Have you completely forgotten existing clients, right? Or does it work for existing clients and the new clients are going to be having a hard time to get this? Did you account for that in your requirements? So these are just the things I think I want you to know about when you're doing your requirements and to consider, so that you don't end up with missing requirements, right? You don't end up missing things because you didn't check through some of these things on this list. So hopefully this video was helpful. Please like and please subscribe. Please check out my website, karaleise.com, to get a free download of these missing requirements. It's called Requirements Cheat Sheet. When you go to my website, go to templates, and there's a number of templates there. One of them is the requirements cheat sheet, so you can have that to just use when you're coming up with your requirements. And listen to my podcast. Support me in all my social media efforts, right? My podcast. Follow me on my Facebook page. I have an Instagram page as well. And if you're on my website, you'll see the most up to date alerts for whatever new thing I'm coming up with, whether it's a course, it's a class, it's a membership, all that stuff. You'll see it on my website. So go follow me all those places, and I will see you in the next video, because you guys are business analyst rock stars, and I definitely want to keep helping you further and have success in your career. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.